Hello. Good morning. Troy introduced us, Ray and Shanna Choate. We're up here against our will. Kind of. Troy's a pretty powerful pastor, but not quite that powerful. We're up here really because we want to do the Lord's will in our lives. We've come to a point in our lives where I can't help but want to do God's will. You'll have to kind of bear with me here. Everybody asked yesterday, they're like, "Hey, you guys ready?" I'm like, "No." Right? I could go the rest of my life without sharing my thoughts in front of a crowd of people. But
I'm never ready to stand in front of a microphone.
It's funny, the things that we think that we're not, God always challenges us in. Because if it was my power, it would be easy. I wouldn't have to have God in my life to do the things that to do His will. It would be easy. Wouldn't be Him. It would be me getting the glory. So we've kind of, I guess we've been, our thing is we're going to Wyoming. Everybody kind of knows that, we're going to Wyoming. We're going to, God's called us there, and we're going on a missional basis. We don't exactly know what all that's going to look like just yet. We have a pretty good idea of what things are going to. That's it. We have ideas. I know what God's laid on my heart. I know what He's put in front of me, both of us. But the exact details, that's all to be revealed. Every day is kind of like a new hand of cards for us right now. So all I can do every day is just kind of slide them to the edge of the table and look at them and say, I'm going to play those cards today. How can I work with these, God? But I kind of wanted to. What's on my heart to talk about is how we got to where we're at, because going to Wyoming for us isn't really like, it's a big thing. We're leaving everything we know, most of our friends, all of our family. We have 2 family members out there, and that's it, and a couple of acquaintances. So we're completely leaving everything.
What's comfortable?
We're leaving our comfort zone, which is really important to me. I like my comfort zone. We're leaving everything to go there. So it's not, it's a big step, but it's not like that. Going to Wyoming's not the thing. It's another step in the along the way of doing God's will. Like I said, I guess if I knew what all it was going to look like when I get there, Wyoming, I could say, that's the thing. That's what, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of starting to ramble, but it's like that. I want to tell you about how we got to that point. I don't know. I guess I kind of feel like, when you start to talk doing missions and doing God's work and all that stuff, it kind of, I was trying to work this out in my mind before I talked about it, so I'm lacking for words here. But I guess you kind of start to feel like people really almost kind of glorify that, and while it's awesome, it's doing God's will. I guess it's not like I don't want the glory for that. I want God to have the glory. We're just I'm on a rabbit trail. So probably about 10 years ago is when God really started to get a hold of us. Shanna pretty much grew up around the church. I've been saved since I was 18 and been in church, sat through a lot of Sundays, been to a lot of Sunday schools, been to a lot of Bible studies, all that kind of stuff. So we'd been in church, we'd been around, we kind of knew what church was all about. We knew how to talk, how to act, how to do a lot of how to look like a Christian, I guess. So there kind of came a point where we kind of started looking around, looking for a little bit more, looking to go a little deeper in the Word. Just kind of felt to us like there should be more to this than just showing up to church on Sunday.
I was going to say, I don't even think we knew that, but I don't even think we were intentionally looking. We just we landed in this Sunday school class, and it absolutely wrecked me. I personally
I think
I think it wrecked both of us, but
yeah. And it may have been I don't think that going deeper was an intentional thing for us. It was maybe it just kind of felt like the thing to do because there was 100 options for classes and stuff like that, and so it felt like maybe a thing to do. But so we ended up in this Sunday school class called "Not a Fan" by Kyle Idleman, who wrote it, and the I guess in a nutshell message of the class was to how did you say that earlier? Taking people from religiosity.
Right. It basically followed a man and his family going from religiosity in their church to just being broken wide open and knowing that he was called to serve. There was more to it. And the theme verse for the study was Matthew 16:24. If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. And for me, I was like, my life with Christ thus far had never sacrificed. I had never had to sacrifice anything. It was, I had good morals and good values, and I grew up in a Christian home, so I knew what being a Christian looked like. I told him this morning, it's hard to say, but it's almost like a Pharisee. Well, they're listening to that music or they're watching that. They're not following Christ. And that, in that moment, I was like, whoa, I am definitely not following. I'm sitting on the sidelines, living the Christian life.
And that's kind of part of what he pointed out in the Not a Fan study was that a fan knows all the things. They know all the statistics. They know all of the players. They know the plays. They know the team. They know the owners. They know all of the things. But a fan sits on the sidelines and watches the game. And that's kind of where we were at the time. And so what he starts talking about in there, it's essentially what he's talking about is that, so he gets into talking about getting in the game and becoming a player in the game. And when that Matthew 16:24 was kind of the pivot verse, the key verse of the study. He's saying that he's talking about servanthood in that study and saying that essentially no matter where you're at, no matter where you stand, you serve somebody. You either serve God or you serve the adversary. You serve the devil. This servanthood thing is kind of it's not something that's it's not something that our culture is real familiar with. Servanthood is the people that the word was written to were really familiar with servanthood, with slavery, with so it was it was a pretty relevant idea to them. But for us in the American culture, we don't like to serve anybody. We like to serve ourselves. We like to be in charge. We like to be call the shots and be, make it for ourselves. And this point kind of turned things around for us. It made us start thinking like, okay, we're not doing much to serve God here. Like, we know all the things, we know the word, we know how we're supposed to act and how we're supposed to look and what we're supposed to say and all that kind of stuff, but we're not in it. We're not playing the game. We're not serving God. But we didn't really know like where to go with that. This is 10 years ago, so it's been kind of a long road from that point. What time do we have till?
3.
3 o'clock? Okay. So, no, seriously though.
Just keep talking.
Okay. I got to work that out because I'm either I'll clam up or I'll go way too long and you guys will have a pot roast burning. So kind of working down the road, we knew that we wanted to serve, didn't know where to serve, and probably, I don't know. So we got invited to join our youth group at the church as leaders.
I can't remember if she called me or we were talking face to face, but she's like, we were just talking about who we could come in as adults, as small group leaders for youth group, and you and Ray's name got thrown out there. I was like, absolutely, Ray would love to do that. But we have kids, so I can't do that, but yeah, I'll pass the message to Ray and he can talk to you. And she's like, well, actually, we already have the babysitting thing worked out and everything. I was like, oh crap, I can't get out of this. And I really didn't think I liked teenagers, so I was, that kind of terrified me. But we said yes, and it ended up being really cool. But
yeah,
I really tried hard to get out of that.
Yeah, and I was kind of freaked out about the whole thing too. I mean, if I don't know, it's I wasn't a huge fan of teenagers when I was a teenager. They still kind of freak me out. But it ended up, it just kind of, it just was one more thing to build into us a little bit, to kind of, just realize, it's like these teenagers aren't like this is something to be afraid of. Some of them kind of have big personalities and just weird ideas and all that kind of stuff, but most of them are just trying to find their spot in the world. And it kind of reminds me, I was there one time too. But that youth group took missions trips every single year. Every other year, they went to Guatemala. They had a church that they work with that they stay for a week down there every single time. 2 weeks. We stay for a week. So they take a 2-week trip to go to the same church every time. The church has there's kind of like an evangelical side of it, like going out sharing the gospel side of the trip, and there's like a work side of the trip, helping the church administer the physical needs to the community that they work with down there, doing construction projects and stuff like that. And I had never been, aside from Canada, never had been out of the country, you hear about third world countries, but when you go to a third world country, it's a completely different thing. When you actually go somewhere and see it and experience it and feel the problems that they have, it's a completely different experience. So we ended up, we went on the first trip with them, kind of just like, yeah, let's go, we'll do it. They're telling youth pastor, he's telling me like, yeah, they build things and this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, perfect, that's me, that's what I do. And we go down there, and like I said, I had no idea what to expect, and we got down there, and I don't know, something about it. While we're in a third world country, I kind of felt right right at home. Yeah. It's essentially what ended up happening on that trip. I mean, there's a big story to it, but it's what happened in that trip is it changed my worldview. Kind of turned everything I knew upside down. Like, everything made me realize how much we take for granted at home in America. Like, I came home and told everybody I knew, like, dude, we are so spoiled. You have no idea how good we have it here at home. My worst day in America is better than most people's good day in Guatemala.
I'm not sure I understand.
Should I clarify?
Siri doesn't get it. I think especially, I know, like, we both really felt after that trip, like, the call to go somewhere. We didn't know where. It was just go. And when we went again, so 2 years later, I think that trip, especially for me, that's the trip that really did something for me, because we kind of missed there was a lot. The volcano had just erupted and things like that. So there was a lot of things that we couldn't do because of that. So we did a lot more ministry, like with kids, and going to the people instead of being there just for the construction week. And I think that just really opened my heart up to people more, to speak to people, to just hang out with them and do life with them, and to just see more of the need, spiritually and physically.
Yeah.
We both, after that second trip, we sobbed on the plane leaving.
The second trip was the big volcano in the area had just erupted, so a lot of the big plans and traveling and going around and construction projects and all that stuff, it all got put on hold because of the concern of the volcano. It was still rumbling, still active, and so it kind of really, like, the focus, a lot of the trip, it kind of felt like at first it's like we might as well not even go because pretty much everything's on hold. But then we got there, and we went with a much smaller group. Everything, like I said, all the going out and doing things got canceled, and most of everything ended up happening around the church. But so a lot of these people that we kind of knew of on the last trip, we ended up getting time to get to know them on, like, personal levels and have conversations, and to get to just like she said, to do life with them and to kind of start to understand them as people. And it's like then you kind of start to realize some of the fears and the struggles and the panics that some of these people have in their lives. And it just made everything really personal, and it made it more real. And it just, like she said, it really hit us hard. Like, I wanted to, when everybody was leaving, I wanted to just go hide in a corner and miss the flight home. So, but we had children back home. We have, life and responsibilities that brought us back here. So we came back home, and we've been involved in whatever areas of serving we could find and stuff. I was helping build a men's ministry, kind of helping guys draw closer to Jesus. Kind of breaking chains was the name of it. That we were trying to help people break free of the chains that hold them down, that keep them from seeking after God and running straight to Him. We just kind of, we tried to find ways to serve in that area and stuff. And I think a lot of it focused for us like around like the church and the building and that group of people. And so, like, I mean, I guess what ended up essentially happening over a period of time is God ended up having to pry us out of there, and had to, and He's kind of, I guess, by leaving that situation, God has been God's been working on us and kind of been working on telling us, like, you guys need to go. You need to go do things. You need to go and serve people. You need to go and tell the world about Jesus. Because like just to serve people and to do things isn't enough. You can't do it, because like you can build things for people and you can do things for people, but if you don't tell them about Jesus, they're still dying without Jesus. And that's kind of what he's been doing in our lives right now is
I think we knew we were supposed to go somewhere, so we had this idea like, okay, we knew we were supposed to sell our house. That meant that we were supposed to go to the community where we were really involved, the church we had been a part of for years and years. And then when God shook that up and called us out of there, it was like, oh, wait a minute. I thought like this was the plan, and then even ending up here with you guys, it was not at first intentional. It was definitely God that brought us here, like we knew Troy and Sherry's. They were like, oh, we'll stop in and like, catch a sermon. And the kids got, they were planning the Christmas play, and the kids were like, we really want to be in the play. And he's just like, if they want to be in the play, let them be in the play. And so they were in the play, and here we are still a year and a half later. So it's just been really cool to see God work in that way too, by, having us here. We can very much see where, He was at work in that and what He's done in our lives just in that last, year.
So we went to Wyoming beginning of last year. Shanna's dad and stepmom decided to move out to Wyoming and start through a lot of prayer and all that stuff. They kind of ended up where they're at. God placed them where they're at, and they didn't have a clue. And we went out. He starts telling me about Wyoming. I'm like, he's showing me pictures and all, and I'm like, it's a prairie. I live on a prairie. I don't want to go to a prairie.
Like, hey, how about Wyoming? He's like, no. It was no.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Yeah, we were not open to the idea. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff out there, a lot of neat things, but it's just essentially I was like, no, it's not my thing. So we ended up helping her dad move. She took several trips out there, and then I went out later on, and so we ended up in the town, the nearby large town called Riverton. One night, it's about 20 miles away, and the kids, there's a skate park there, and the kids were begging us to go skating, and so we finally went one night. We're all tired. We didn't really want to go, but the kids are begging, so we took them, and we get there. There's a much larger crowd than I would prefer. I'm like starting to think up excuses of why we're not going to the skate park, and so I was, I don't know. We're there. I'm like, I can't tell the kids no now. So we went and started skating around and all this stuff. And so there's a group of probably about 20, 25 kids out there. We just kind of join in and start skating and having a good time with them and stuff. And our kids are playing with the rest of them. And in the town of Riverton, it's kind of mostly a Native American population. And so as we're spending time out here, I'm noticing most of these kids are out here are probably under 12, don't have parents with them, and a lot of them have 4, 5, 6-year-old siblings with them and stuff. And it ended up while we're out there, it just kind of I'm watching our kids start playing and having fun with these other kids, and we just got to kind of realizing, some of these kids you can just sense by being around them that, they kind of probably come from rough situations and, probably are here because they don't have, their parents are not around or involved or whatever. And, it just, as the evening progressed, it just, God really laid on my heart, like, these people need Jesus. And like you could start a whole youth group like right here in this place without even having to try. And
it's funny too because we took every board that we own to like on a road trip, 20-hour road trip. He's like, no, we'll just put them all in the car carry. I'm like, we could just take a couple and take turns. He's like, no, we're taking them all. And it was just funny because like all these kids were just like, every time our kids took a break, they're like, hey, can we play with the boards? So we just had all of these kids just, using our boards and hanging out with us. And it was just really cool to see, like, God even knew, like, ahead of time, like, no, bring them all.
Mm-hmm. So it just, and so like essentially what he ended up revealing to me there by watching all these kids and all this stuff was kind of what I saw in Guatemala, which was a pretty dismal situation for children, for anybody, but especially children, just growing up into bad situations. Like they don't have, they're hopeless. They're growing up into terrible situations where there's no one around to guide them, no one around to teach them, no one around to provide for them, and they're broken and hopeless, and they need people. They need God. They need Jesus, and it just was really heavy on my heart. Like this is the people that I want you to reach. And so we went. We were kind of stoked about it. We ended up going back home and talking about it some and all that stuff. And we're like, yeah, it'd be kind of cool someday. And we kind of decided a long time ago, like, yeah, in the midst of going to Guatemala and stuff, like, we're not going to go somewhere just to go somewhere. We're going to go somewhere because God called us to go. And so
I feel like we kind of got back into like the routine of life though when we got back. Mm-hmm. And we just kind of went about life and everything. And then in February, Sherry and I did the IF gathering out at Cup of Cold Water. And at the end of it, it was like a really, a lot of powerful messages and things like that. But at the end of it, she's like, passed around a key, and she said, now I want you to write down what is your next risky step of obedience? And immediately I heard go. And I was like, I honestly was annoyed by it because I'm like, yeah, we know go. Like, we've been hearing go for years. Like, where? You know, what? Like, what do you want? Where are we supposed to go? And shortly after that, he talked about, you know, listing the house for sale. And so I just started really praying hard, like intentionally, like, God, if this is your will, if we're supposed to go to Wyoming, make it clear. Because, you know, like he said, we don't want to go somewhere just to go. Like, we want there to be a reason and a purpose for it, and for it to be, you know, his will. And so then a couple weeks after that, we went to the Cup of Cold Water banquet, the missions banquet, and we were supposed to go together, and he ended up being like an hour and a half late. So I had to scramble and like get him his food and find an extra chair to pull up to a table that was already seated and everything. And he finally got there, and all of the, is it okay if I'm sharing this part? Did you want to share this?
No, definitely.
Okay. So all of the desserts, the cupcakes, had already been laid out on the table. So there was 8 on the table, and we had 9 at the table because we had pulled up an extra seat. And he sat down, and there happened to be 2 left. I said, hey, you know, do you want one of those before they're gone? And he's like, sure. So I grabbed it, I set it in front of him, and I don't know, a few minutes later, he's like, let me see your cupcake wrapper. I'm like, okay, why? And he took it and he looked at it. Mine was just, I don't know, somewhere in Africa. I didn't really pay attention to it. And he looks at me. I don't really know what was going through his head when he said it, but he's like, that's really weird. Mine says Wyoming. I was like, what? Like, immediately I started like crying. I was like, no way. And so I took it from him and looked at it to be sure. I have it. I know you can't see it from there, but I'm keeping this. But not only did it say Wyoming, but it said Riverton, Wyoming. And I was just like, I was so blown away because I had like been praying for clarity, and like I didn't expect a literal map, but that's what I got. So
Yeah, it was really mind blowing too, because like on this map, Wyoming's this big, and Riverton doesn't usually show up on a map that size. It's a small town, but it was like, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. I can read that.
So then it happened to be the next day, my sister and I, we had already scheduled a trip to go out to Wyoming and surprise my dad, just to visit. And so we got out there, and I had remembered the property adjoining him was for sale. And because my next thought was like, okay, we have to find a place to live, we have to list our house and all of this stuff. And so that morning I was doing dishes at his kitchen window, and I could see that house in the distance. I was like, hey, did that property ever sell? And he's like, yeah, it did. It's like, okay, you know, we'll have to go looking or something. So we're hiking later on that afternoon, and we were sitting down talking. He's like, so, you know, that property sold? I was like, yeah, that's what you mentioned. He's like, yeah, well, to us. So he's like, and, you know, they had actually tried to purchase it without the house because they didn't want the house or anything. He's like, so, you know, that would be available if you need a place to live. And it was just like, you know, here we are like clueless all of these years, and like behind the scenes, us not knowing, God is just like working out every single little detail. So
yeah. So that's that, and that's kind of what I was saying. Is it's like Wyoming is the next step for us. It's, you know, we didn't wake up one day and decide we're going to Wyoming. You know, it's God's been working on us one step at a time, over a long period of time, and this is the next thing. Like I said, I don't have all the details for what it's going to look like after we get there. We don't even know what day we're leaving yet. It changes every day. You know, so we get asked frequently for a departure date and all that stuff because people want to say goodbye and all that. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, but here we are, and we're waiting for God to give us the day and when to take the next step. So, did you have something there?
Yeah, I just kind of end with like that song that we opened with kind of blew my mind because I had just in my Bible study this week, I really took the time where, I made a post on Instagram. I said I had kind of like been lacking over the last week of like digging in. Either I would rush through my time with him or just miss it because we're packing and doing all this stuff, and I had all these excuses. And so I sat down and I really spent some time in the Word, and it was just immediately he's always there. As soon as we take that time and we come to him, he's always there. And it was immediately I opened up this brand new Devo that I started, and the first thing was a quote that I had just read a few days before. I'm like, that's weird. And but the gist of it was we get so distracted with the little things to try to satisfy ourselves, but we're missing it if he's not the one who satisfies us and leads us, and then and that was what I said. I don't want to miss what he has right here and right now. And then we sang that song, "Keep me in the moment, help me live with my eyes wide open, show me what matters, throw away what I'm chasing after, because I don't want to miss what you have for me." And I think it's easy to miss in our busy, distracted lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
that's our story in a nutshell.
That's what I got to say about that right there. But
Did anyone else notice that there's kind of this plaid thing going on?
He got dressed up.
All right, thanks, guys.
Ray, I have a question.
sure.
Who will you be ministering to mostly? American Indians?
That kind of. I mean, I know that seems to be the people that he put in front of me, in front of our eyes while we were out there. That's a huge part of the population. We will be surrounded by reservation out there. We're on the edge of the Wind River Reservation, and there's lots of other reservations nearby. As you drive through the country out there, it's just you're in and out of reservation all the time. That seems to be where a lot of the problems and hopelessness and things like that are at.
There's also a coffee shop ministry that's 5 minutes from where we'll be living, and ironically that trip that we made to visit my dad, the first announcement out of the pastor's mouth that Sunday was there's this coffee shop that needs volunteers, and I was like, coffee? That's our thing. If you know us well, coffee is our thing. We make it all the ways. Some people might consider us snobs about our coffee, but yeah. So it was kind of cool. So I've been in communication with them a little bit too, and we're gonna talk to them once we actually get out there. So.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
All right, so I took some notes, and I'm ready for another 20-minute sermon. I hope you guys are too. I noticed a couple things. One, that it is. I think it's important for us to understand what he was saying at the start. It's just another step. A lot of people said when Sherry and I sold everything and moved to Mongolia, what a big deal it was. But because of all the previous steps, it was just another step, and that wasn't the big issue. And so look at your own lives and just think, anything that God's going to ask you to do, it's because he has all these previous steps already. And so you're just going to take one more, so we can have confidence in that. One of the other things I liked that they were talking about at the beginning was that Bible study where, people, they criticize the play that's called rather than get in there and try to execute the play that the coach called. And I think that's an important thing that we can focus on in saying, let's get off the sidelines and let's get in the game and let's make God's will work. And I understand, I'm going to get notes about that later, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Let's get involved. Let's do these things. And the other thing too is, let's say we do come, I can get some of you guys to come to that moment where you're like, I'm going to do whatever God wants. I'm going to serve him however he wants. And then he says something like kids ministry, and they're like, wait, that's not what I had in mind. But at the same time, if I were have asked them at that moment, what did you have in mind? They didn't have anything in mind. So whatever God puts in your mind or puts before you as your opportunity to serve, whether it's in the church or in the community or soup kitchen or whatever it is, that's what God put in your mind, well, you should probably do it. And then also, I'm super excited, not that they're going to be leaving us because they're good friends and I really love them, but I'm excited because that means that this church was the final stepping stone to launch them. And I know a lot of churches are the final stepping stone to lose people. We're not losing them, we're launching them. And that's super exciting because it means that the church is doing its job. It means that hopefully some of the teachings from up here equipped them to go and do good works. And so it makes me super excited. So eventually they're going to know their final Sunday, and when that happens, we're going to pray for them and send them out, and who knows, maybe, take an offering or something for them. But for now, we just keep them in your prayers, ask them lots of questions, really let them know you love them and you support all that they're doing. So I'll bring this part to an end. We're going to sing a song, and then we're going to take communion. So if you guys could stand.